Good day from Secunda. We are still in Secunda. I'm flat on the grass under my favorite tree. There you go. It's beautiful. Favorite tree in this garden, yes. I'm going to read Battlefields by the Naked Barista today. It was written in August 2015. That was when my husband was working on the site Mazibeku. Got a beautiful pic of us road tripping to Mazibeku, and I'm just going to start reading. So here we are on a new adventure. The closest towns is Pomeroy and Dundee in the opposite direction. I will put links to Pomeroy and Dundee in the description of this video, as anything else that I've got. Pomeroy will be the town where provisions for our workmen will be fetched, as they will be staying with the locals closest to the site. We always try and benefit the economy of the locals as we rent accommodation from them, and when we need casual day workers, that also comes from them. We only heard now that this part of our country is well known by overseas visitors for tours taken to see our battlefields. Up until now, we have not known about this. Obviously, we learned about the battles of Blood River in school, but we just never knew that this was such a tourist attraction. That's why I'm so happy to be traveling our country. Then I find out all these beautiful history. It's part of our world. We were on the road with our loaded vehicle, workmen and trailer with motorbike and tools. Yes, we brought our motorbike. Only on one trip we did that because it was a lot of work to get that there too. And we only were able to ride with it once. So it's not really viable to bring it with. Driving for plus minus 1,400 kilometers. We slept over at Garibdam. Gratitude for the booking made for us by our friend Andre. Last night we arrived at our accommodation, a German-owned retreat, Elandheim, meaning Elands is a buck and then home, so the home of the Eland. This was a German missionary with a church and cemetery on the property. I also have a link in the description about Elandheim. The closest shop is also German-owned, and it seemed that most of the development here was done by Germans. We stayed at Elandheim for 2 nights and was taken care of by a lovely couple who comes from Pretoria and has only been working there for about 3 weeks. The managers were on holiday and we were the only guests, so we were treated. We were on our way to the site where Bethesda, my husband, will be doing civil work for a new cell phone tower being erected. I've got some photos also on. It's not the best photo, but I'll also put my link to my website where this article is on in the description. Beautiful grasslands spread in all directions, dotted with Aloe spectabilis, which is a protected species. This morning I stood under the most amazing thorn tree, and I wish I had taken a picture of this oldest of the old stunning specimen. It gives me goosebumps to be this close to such magnificence. I love trees. You will notice that in my articles. I love trees. Our long drive towards the site is very calm and peaceful, with picturesque grass huts everywhere and local people fetching water from taps seemingly sticking out of the earth. We went over a river a little while ago, which Zulu woman was busy washing their clothes. There's a nice pic of that as well. Also a bit blurry. It was my old phone in 2015. Although rural, it is good to see that the Mazibeku area has its own clinic and school. Every now and again, even a western-looking home can be seen amidst the huts. We have moved to another accommodation now, and we are super blessed and excited to feel at home in a first for me historical fort. Farthing Farm has been made into beautiful accommodation quarters and is a 6th generation farm, and we will call this unique and lovely space home for the next few weeks. Yeah, accommodation in an old historical fort, that was a first for me as well. Our host, Foy Vermaak, sadly he died about 2 years ago, but I was so fortunate to meet this man. What a beautiful man. But I digress. Let's read. Our host, Foy Vermaak, is the 6th generation owner, as well as an experienced and trusted tour guide. His right-hand help is Anne Schreiber, who has been here for more than 18 years, and we are super blessed as she is an amazing cook. This weekend, 3 couples were hosted here for the Battlefields tour, which I also have links to in the description of this article. Foy is an impressive man with an air of quiet sophistication, and we listen easily to what he says. He is 77 and his heritage dates way back, as his family arrived here in 1847. They were rebels when the war broke out, and after Paul Kruger left South Africa and fled to Holland, Queen Wilhelmina reigned then. They also followed. The house has been built 1,500 meters above sea level. There are a couple of dwellings on the farm, which his forefathers built, but then had to move to get closer to where more water was available. Last night we joined in on supper with the tour group and were served a lovely full-course meal in grand style with the most amazing silverware at an enormous table. We are super blessed with delicious meals, and there is even a bar facility. Foy told us that the house burned down in 1995 and was renovated and rebuilt. An absolute wealth of attractive antique furniture and trinkets abound, and I am always fascinated by captivating historical pieces. One of these precious treasures is an old cupboard in our room, which Foy told me about while he sat in his favorite chair and I treated him with some foot love. This foot love is one of the services that I have available. It's called the Pediblessiology, which is my own name, and I've got a link to more of that also in the description. In brackets I wrote, I've smoothed his feet with my special little tool for calluses and gave him a foot massage, all the while recording him while he drifts down memory lane. What a beautiful, blessed, shared time for him, yes, but mostly for me, as gifting my time to someone is so precious, warms my heart and soul. About 2 years ago, a young friend of mine, June, surprised me by giving me some foot love, and I felt an overwhelming sense of well-being while she pampered me. This is how my interest was sparked to learn more about this love gift. And here I want to add that June is now a mom of 2 already, and she does amazing photography, wedding photography and all of that, and I'll put a link for her also in the description. It's mind-blowing what beautiful pics she can take and videos and all of that. She knows all about that. Back to the antique cupboard in our room. Foy said he didn't know if it was built by his grandfather or if maybe he commissioned someone to build it for them. But this was around 1905 and he knows that it came from Pietermaritzburg. On top of the cupboard is a hole with a wooden pin through to keep it upright. This bewitching cupboard can be folded flat to fit in an ox wagon. How wonderful, would you believe? When Foy's mother inherited it, she used it as a linen cupboard, and now we are blessed to be using it too. The fort we are staying in is so interesting. Foy says the holes in the walls were not closed up for accommodation. It was built as is, and all the soldiers needed to do when they were going to shoot is to knock out the stone with the butt of the rifle in the front, and the hole would be opened and ready for shooting the enemy. All that has been added to make the fort livable is a bathroom and enclosed stoep with 2 quaint little rocking chairs. On this stoep is also an old treasured creamer they used to make butter with. At the back of the fort is an added space where his father received his education as a little boy. Foy even remembers his father telling him the teacher's name was Miss Knowles. His father was sent away to school when he was older to the town named Vrede. There's also a link about Vrede in the description. And his aunt, his father's sister, was sent to Pietermaritzburg, and there's also a link of Pietermaritzburg. His father was in an Afrikaans school for a short period and then attended Pietermaritzburg College so as to learn the English language. Foy also told me that a positive that followed after the Anglo-Boer War was that the parents decided that all the kids had to attend a school that could teach them good English education so that the kids should not feel ashamed. Foy can speak Zulu fluently as he grew up with the Zulu kids, and he says that he got just as much hiding from Zulu mamas as from his own. Foy's own schooling started in 1945, and back then there were no formal schools. He went to a little farm school, and this, he says, is where most of his education came from, and he is a very educated man. His teacher was Mrs. Elsie Schoeman, and she was born in 1890. She was an educated woman who studied in Holland, Leiden in Holland. The town's name was Leiden. Then she married a Boer, and they had 2 children. Her husband died of flu in 1918, and as they were not rich, she battled to survive financially. One of Foy's uncles took pity on her and gave her one of the houses on this farm with a few sheep in exchange for education for his kids and hers. This is how Foy's school came about, and her kids and all the others around received a very good education. In her last 2 years of being a teacher, there were 15 kids in the class. They were all seated at a long table, but individually taught, each at their own pace. If he finished today's work early, he would have to start the next day's work. Mrs. Schoeman could speak 7 languages. She would take turns with certain days of the week to let the students speak either Afrikaans or English, and at weekends she knew they would be speaking Zulu while playing. Mrs. Elsie Schoeman left a big mortar and pestle for Foy's mom when she became ill. I've got a pic of that big mortar and pestle. I was amazed. You used to do maize with it. She used to put mealies, and water in and grind it to make samp. Foy says today's samp is not the same anymore, as it is just dry, broken mealies. The historic mortar and pestle in the corner next to the dressing table. I've got a photo right there. Foy tells me that his grandfather's sister fled into the mountains with her kids and was only found after the war in 1910 and resurfaced intact with kids to come back to this farm. There was nothing left. The houses were plundered and destroyed. The furniture was stolen. While this was happening, one of the servants started taking furniture pieces to his dwelling. When the landowners returned, he returned the saved furniture to its rightful owners, and these pieces is still in the house today. Most of these pieces were handmade by Foy's great-grandfather. He even made a 4-poster bed that was inherited by Foy's brother. Sadly, his brother died in 1998, a political death, as he was assassinated. He was manager of a government research station, Bartlo in brackets, Bartlo, and one morning on his way back to work, they waited for him and shot him with an AK-47. Everyone knew it was, but no one could do anything about it. Foy says that 98 was not his best year, as his wife died in July and his brother was murdered in October. The duality of life. About 2 years later, justice prevailed as Foy was told that the killer was also killed. A little bit of closure for him. This farm is lush with trees and I can hear birds all day long, just like here. In brackets I put just an example of how a wish list works, as this one is one of my wishes, and nowadays everywhere we stay has a beautiful garden with birds. Absolutely love being super blessed like this. Apparently, the trees here are mostly from Australia. I have a photo to show how big one of the trees is. This is me in a Balimbra from South America. It was the biggest tree I've ever been in. I just got into it and we took a photo in it. It's really beautiful. I felt so very special this morning as I went to do yoga in the furthest corner of the garden while our room was being cleaned. Super blessed. The setting amongst the trees was so peaceful and beyond just beautiful. I am definitely on a 7th generation farm, as it has this air of well lived in space. Old tractors and vehicles from a bygone era lend themselves to this feeling. I am surrounded by beautiful big old trees, and in the distance I can see cows. So many birds live here, crows, hadidas and guinea fowl, all together in this peaceful garden. Looking around, angelic space comes to mind. And there's another photo about the beautiful sunsets. I started thinking of how blessed I am and how awesome it is when you receive these moments of reflection and just know that you are in the flow of your own best life. While I am listening to the recording I made for me to remember what to write, I can hear the birds serenading me and adding even more serenity to my peaceful thoughts. Getting into the flow, I will also put that into the description. It's an article on my soul grower side. Has been happening more and more as I learn to let go of preconceived fears and realize that the universe has always got my back. We need to know that we are always at the right place at the right time, but that we are also the one that can create our reality. We need to go inside and find these moments of peace, even if there are challenging situations in our life that we have no control over. These challenges are exactly the kind of stuff that teaches us the lessons we need to get into the flow of our lives. Challenges in our lives aid only in speeding up the process for healing. What amazing insight. If you please read the previous sentence again. Wow. Challenges in our lives aid only in speeding up the process for healing. That was the previous sentence. The sooner we embrace a challenge, we can learn the lesson it is offering us and receive the gift of knowing. Penny Farthing, it's another link that I will post there. It's an update I did 6th of March 2021. Was when sadly Foy passed away. I'm super blessed to have met this amazing man and to have had the honor of sitting at his feet while he tells me his life story. Yeah, a legend he was. Battlefields, route KZN. The Battlefields route, there's also a link to that, which also includes some areas of Zululand, stretches up the north coast to Matubatuba, inland to Nongoma, Malabebatini, Ulundi, Melmoth and Ishawi, and then northwest to Vryheid, Pietermaritzburg, Utrecht and Dundee. We have been blessed to have stayed in Ishawi before, and we have done a previous article on the region. Now we are blessed once again to be in the midst of grasslands and beautiful hills, and what irony to think that this peaceful beauty has witnessed over 70 years of historical bloody conflict. The voortrekkers were looking for an independent haven to settle, and as such moved inland and engaged in several skirmishes with the Zulu inhabitants, which grew to become the historical well-known Battle of Blood River on 16 December 1838. The British saw defeats as well as triumphs in the Anglo-Zulu-Boer War of 1879. At Isandlwana, they had a major loss of lives, yet a few hopelessly outnumbered British soldiers celebrated a legendary defense at Wagensdrift. Then came the First War of Independence between the British and Boers in 1800 to 1881. Sure, it's a long time, 81 years. And to follow was the Anglo-Boer War from 1899 to 1902. And then I wrote about Biggarsberg, and there's a link to Biggarsberg. Lies between Ladysmith and Newcastle and is a convenient base from which to tour the battlefield's route. Biggarsberg offers good farm-style accommodation and can be reached via the N11. Most battles took place in this valley, which is formed by the lower area, as the mountains themselves forms a natural barrier between Ladysmith and Dundee. Around 50 historical sites can be viewed. Colenso was used as a base by the British Army during the Anglo-Boer War and was the site where the Battle of Colenso waged on 15 December 1899. This was the first of 5 to relieve the siege on Ladysmith. Here you will also find gun positions that were taken under the leadership of General Louis Botha. There are many monuments to the fallen, particularly the son of Field Marshal Lord Roberts, Lieutenant Vrede Roberts, who died while trying to retrieve said guns. His grave is at Chivoli Military Cemetery. It's also the site of the number 4 military hospital. Danhauser, I've got a link to Danhauser in the description, was named after Reinier Danhauser, who purchased the farm Palmfontein from the Natal government in 1872. Danhauser was proclaimed a village in 1937, formerly being a coal mining centre. Nowadays, Danhauser presents a small town appeal and lies nestled in the valley of the Biggarsberg Mountains. Dundee, another little town that I've got a description, a link to Dundee, was named after a Scot who named his farm after his hometown. In 1899, this farm, Dundee Coal Company, was listed on the London Stock Exchange, and the area blossomed with elegant homesteads as well as a theatre. Dundee is known as the gateway to the battlefields. There are 68 skirmish and battle sites within a 2-hour drive of Dundee. The town's popularity was due to the convenient position being the crossroads for 7 routes leading inland. Dundee is a prominent feature of the battlefield route. Most of the British contingent resided around Dundee and Ladysmith. And then I've got a photo of me and hubby, and I put down some more sunset on Foy's farm with me and my very skilled photographer husband. On the outskirts of Dundee is Talana Hill, where the first salvos of the Anglo-Boer War were fired. In 1979, the Talana Museum was opened on the site of the Battle of Talana to the public in memory of the Anglo-Boer War. This museum offers more information on farming as well as the manufacturing times and coal and glass mining. There are 16 themed buildings as well as a cemetery featuring an honoring wall of peace and reconciliation. Excellent exhibits can be found as well as a curio shop and lovely restaurant. We were there, so it was really beautiful. Fugitives Trail is signposted from Wagensdrift and shows the route taken by the survivors of the Battle of Elandslaagte, who crossed the Buffalo River, which is now named Fugitives Drift. On the hillside above this drift is the grave sites of Lieutenants Melville and Cogill, who were killed while attempting to rescue the Queen's colours. The Blood River Battlefield and Nkombi Zulu Cultural Museum are found just off the R22 between Dundee and Vrede. Ndlela was the leader of around 12,000 Zulu warriors who fought against 464 armed voortrekkers. The battle raged for a long time, but the voortrekkers won when the Zulus fled eventually. The lager formation of 64 bronzed full-sized wagons can be viewed here. It was very impressive. We were there as well, and we took some photos. The coal mining industry, which sustained the area economically for over a century, is now being revived. Apart from tours specializing in military and Zulu culture, adventure sports such as white water rafting and abseiling can also be done, as well as hiking, horse trails, game watching, birding, hunting and fishing. For the sportsmen, an 18-hole golf course, tennis, squash, bowling greens, hockey, cricket, football and rugby are available. That's just about everything. The weather is usually hot and sunny. From October to March is the rainy season. This is a non-malaria area. Elandslaagte, which has also a little link to in the description, can be found on the R602 between Ladysmith and Dundee. Initially seized by the Boers and then reclaimed by the British, the now obsolete railway station played a huge role in the Anglo-Boer War. Two cemeteries record the struggle that took place here on 21st of October 1899 between British Colonel Ian Hamilton and General Jan Kok, who lost his life. Next to his site is the Nambiti Hills Private Game Reserve. Estcourt, named after the English parliamentarian Thomas Estcourt, is the gateway to the central Drakensberg. There's also a link to Estcourt. This town was originally known as Bushman's River, and immigrants were sponsored by Thomas Estcourt to settle here. Zulus attacked lagers on 12 February 1938, but the voortrekkers managed to fight them. On this site now can be found a restored voortrekker house, whose Sai Lager is its name. Follow Alfred Street past the quarry and over the stream. Fort Dunford is a stone structure overlooking Estcourt and worth a visit. There are many more battles and markings of those battles around this area, but I am getting depressed by writing about this. Yesterday, we visited the Telana Museum in Dundee, and although sad, well worth a visit. Maybe a mention of a famous name, Sir Winston Churchill, who was a war correspondent at the time of the Anglo-Boer War. Sir Winston Churchill coerced his friend Captain Haldane into allowing him to tag along on an armoured train monitoring the railway line between Estcourt and Colenso. They were captured by the Boers on their return. On the R103 turnoff on the old Estcourt Road, a plaque can be found to commemorate this event. Plug, more than a plague, I think. Today is hard to believe that some of South Africa's most ferocious battles took place here on this very peaceful white plains, where now a more relaxed focus is to experience the exciting and diverse wildlife. Much better thing to do. The battlefield's route, where now only the wind can be heard, bearing silent testimony to the struggles of our forefathers, and no gunfire. The area is largely dominated by historical landmarks, the only evidence of ferocious battles being the crumbling remains of stone forts and grave sites. Picturesque and worth a mention is Wagensdrift Reserve near Estcourt. Also a link in the description. Moorpark Reserve and Wagensdrift Dam is also part of this 980 hectares protected area. The resort's main activities are boating and fishing. Common species of fish caught in the dam is bass, carp, eel and trout. This area abounds in bird life, and fish eagle and black eagle have nested here for many years. Along the Bush River is a 3-kilometer self-guided trail for game viewing. On Makabeni Hill overlooking Moorpark, one of the oldest Iron Age sites can be found, dating to around 1300 CE. Glencoe, also a link in the description, was also named after a valley in Argyllshire by Scottish who came to settle here in the late 1800s. Also nestled in a valley among the Biggarsberg mountains, it was close to numerous battle sites. Karel Landman was a commander at the Battle of Blood River, and his house, a typical example of a voortrekker house, can be viewed, as well as various Iron Age smelting sites. Just off the R68 between Ngutu and Babananga is the site of the greatest defeat suffered by British troops at the hands of the Zulus. This battle took place on 22nd January 1879 and left around 1,300 British troops and between 1,500 and 2,000 Zulus dead. The grave markings are still visible as they were buried where they fell. Ladysmith, also a link in the description, was established in 1850 and named after Sir Harry Smith's wife. On the banks of the Klip River, this town is most famous for the siege between October 1899 and March 1900 during the Anglo-Boer War. Ladysmith was the stopover for fortune seekers on their way to the goldfields of the Transvaal or Kimberley's diamond mines. Spearman's Military Cemetery lies on the R600 between Ladysmith and Winterton, and this is the former site of the British Field Hospital. The Battle of Spioenkop, 23 and 24 January 1900, was one of the fiercest but achieving the least. It's only 2 days, luckily. The British occupied Spioenkop while the Boers tried to take it. This battlefield is found off the R616 between Ladysmith and Bergville. The Ladysmith Siege Museum is considered the best Anglo-Boer War museum in the country. The Big Five can be found in an en&biw private game reserve and comprises savanna, woodland, grassland, thornveld and acacia trees. Some 35 kilometers from Ladysmith, the Spioenkop+Dam+Nature+Reserve, also a link in the description, all 4,400 hectares is found. The tranquility of the dam offers an opportunity for yachting and water skiing. A discovery trail provides a 3 or 6 kilometer trail free from dangerous game. There are also numerous picnic sites around the dam. More to admire here is the Wagon Hill battle site, as well as the Burger Monument, old forts and gun positions. Lüneburg, a link in the description, place of the moon, was originally settled by German Lutheran missionaries in 1854 and named after their hometown. It is found close to Pietermaritzburg, almost on the bit of Mpumalanga, and it is now the site of the oldest German school in northern KwaZulu-Natal and supports a quiet farming community. 2 beautiful churches as well as Fort Cleary, erected in 1879, can be visited. Visitors of Lüneburg can enjoy biking, hiking, birding and horse trails. Newcastle, also a link in the description, once known as Post Halt 2, served as a stopover en route from Port Natal to the Transvaal. This town offers easy access to a number of battle sites, since it is well rooted in the battle history, but the national road no longer runs through it. Well worth the visit. During the Anglo-Boer War in 1876, Major Charles Frederick Amiel and 200 troops of the 80th Staffordshire Regiment built Fort Amiel. This was used as a transit camp and hospital. Rebuilt in the 1980s, now serves as a museum, while a Zulu hut or imuzi with the detailed interior is also open for visitors. Beyond Newcastle lies the battle sites of Laing's Nek, Majuba and Skeinshoogte. Other interests include Hilltop House, once the retreat of novelist Rider Haggard, O'Neill's Cottage, which serves as a makeshift hospital. Some more attractions feature a Hindu temple on Kirkland Street and Snowy's home bakery. Wagensdrift, also a link in the description, was named after the owner who lived on the farm near the crossing. It is about 45 kilometers southeast of Dundee. It lies near a natural rock formation, the Drift, and provides easy passage into Zululand past Isandlwana and the Sepisi Mountains. The river enters a gorge which makes it difficult to cross until it joins the Tugela River, a well-known landmark where 140 British soldiers who were occupying the Mission Station Hospital fought for 11 hours against the attack of 4,000 Zulus. In the aftermath of this heroic stand, 11 Victoria Cross medals were awarded. After the death of owner James Rourke, the farm was occupied by a Swedish mission. Present-day Wagensdrift Museum has achieved international acclaim for its displays and audio-visual recreation of the actual battle. Utrecht, also link in the description, where both Sir Evelyn Wood and Lord Chelmsford had their headquarters, was titled after a Dutch town. In 1843, with the British annexation of Natal, nearly two-thirds of the voortrekkers left the area. Land just east of the Buffalo River was granted by the Zulu king Mpande in 1847. I'm visited by a little lizard coming to check me out. To a small group of voortrekkers. They first named it Buffalo River Maatschappij and then the Old Republic before Utrecht was adopted in 1856. The old parsonage was built in 1888 for the Reverend and Mrs. Neetling. Restored by the municipality, it is a national monument and houses the Utrecht Museum. Utrecht was incorporated into the Transvaal in 1859 and the first appointed Landros was Petrus Lafras Ace. A monument was erected in his honor in 1881. Ace was killed in the Battle of Lubona in 1879 while fighting with his 4 sons with the British against the Zulus. Ace House, the residence of Commandant Dirk Ace, is yet another national monument as well as the town hall, erected in 1913. Utrecht lies within the Balele Game Park and Utrecht Community Game Farm and boasts a total reserve area of 2,500 hectares with 11 species of game, including blesbuck, bushbuck, waterbuck, blue wildebeest and many others. Small game frequents the parks and gardens of the town. Vienen, also a link in the description, near the banks of the Bushmans River, some 47 kilometers east of the town Estcourt, is the second oldest 1838 settled by Europeans. Vienen means weeping and is named for the massacre of the voortrekkers by Zulus at Blaukrans and Moordspruit. The Cabbage Express railed fresh produce from Vienen to Estcourt between 1907 and 1983. Andries Pretorius' waterwheel can be viewed at the Vienen Museum. So sad about our railways, which was used so much. Both day and overnight visitors are welcome at the Nature Reserve, as it offers an excellent road system and walking trails and guided tours are available. This reserve was proclaimed in 1974 and has been repopulated with both black and white rhino, giraffe, buffalo, red hartebeest, eland zebra, klipspringer, ostrich, bushbuck, black-backed jackal, hyena and mountain reedbuck. It even has a vulture feeding site as well as caravan and camping sites. The Tugela Biosphere Reserve integrates conservation with farming and covers the Tugela, Bushmans and Blokrans river valleys. Activities include horse trails, game viewing and bird watching, in particular the white storks. Wildlife includes giraffe, buffalo, kudu, leopard, hyena, elephant, rhino, zebra, wildebeest and many more. November and May provide the best opportunity for river rafting along a 30-kilometer stretch of river. Super blessed on our journey with so much gratitude. And with that, the end of this very long article. And may you be super blessed by it. May you share it. And because it is a lot of work that I've done. And also subscribe to my channel and maybe share it with people who would also want to subscribe to my channel, where I'm going to share all our travels. Be super blessed. Have a beautiful day.